So I'm kind of curious. What engine are you guys using for Combat Mission Cold War? Is it the similar one that you've used for the previous games?
Yes, it's constantly updating and evolving, and the improvements made are rolled into the other ones. We haven't done an engine-wide upgrade in a while, and we are still planning on doing upgrade 5, but we've been
Ooh,
constantly distracted by other things, including the Cold War. We we added the capability of playing using Slytherin's play by email system, which is an automated email system which allows you to do player finding and carry forward games. And something that people have wanted from Combat Mission since the old days. It's just not something that we ever felt we had the resources to implement. So we implemented that for Cold War, and it was way more challenging than we expected because um, uh, it Slytherin's API was written in a different language than we use, and so we had to do a lot of translations and libraries, and anytime you work with a server is unbelievably fun, apparently. And then on top of that, yeah, the problem was that their system was not designed for a game of our size. So they were used to handling turns in kilobytes, maybe even megabytes, and our turns sometimes come in at 100 um, meg, and so it was
wow.
we stressed out their infrastructure a bit, but we got that all settled. It just took a lot longer than we expected.
Yeah, I really love that PVM Plus system that they have. It does make it a lot more, I guess, a smoother transition playing multiplayer, which I'm really glad that you guys incorporated into your system here. Which kind of leads me to my next question. So I'm gonna kind of like go off the rails a little bit because I had like a couple of questions lined up, but I'll come back to them. So since you brought up Matrix games and Slytherin, I'm kind of curious. So the Combat Mission Cold War came out. You were mentioning summer 2021, and then we released on Steam November 2021. I'm kind of curious. Why, I'm sure there's I'm sure that it required a lot of work, but was there a delay? What goes into the process of making a Steam release versus a release on Battlefront.com?
So it was the for this particular release, it was purely the major delay was the implementation of the PVM function.
Uh,
So Slytherin very wisely wanted this to be in the game right out of the box. They didn't want to start selling it and then wrap it in as a patch later on. And we agreed with that. That made total sense. The problem from our end was we were ready to release the game, uh, and we didn't want to hold it back off of our website, off of our regular sales, because we had told people for months that it was going to be available, and then we came up with this PBM strategy, and so they very quickly agreed. They said, "All right, well, why don't you release it on your website, and then when you get the technology implemented, then we'll release it for Steam and on Matrix." And we said, "Yeah, that sounds great." And we expected there to only be maybe about a month, maybe 6 weeks delay between the two. But as I alluded to, the technical hurdles of getting involved, and then we had the inevitable thing when you start doing a project that is only a couple of people are involved in the important bits. Then you get into uh, somebody got married, and so
oh,
suddenly we didn't have that person for 4 weeks, and we we kept working, but there were certain things that went slower or had to wait, and um, so there was just it was just the technical stuff, the just the end of summer weddings and vacations interfered with it more than we expected it would, and we fortunately were able to get it out for November because otherwise it wouldn't be out until January because nobody releases in this close to Christmas,
Yeah, and
or nobody should. It's not a good time.
I guess that's probably why they do the. I guess that's why like December is kind of like a kind of a dead month for game releases.
Yeah, yeah. They typically even before Black Friday became the crazy thing that it became, the mentality was to ship right around Thanksgiving, and that has been the traditional target for most games since forever, I think. And the closer you get to Christmas, uh, the more competition you have with life, and that is something that
That's a hard balancing
game
act.
game releases. Yeah, it is a balancing act.
Yeah, but I'm kind of curious. So you guys got this whole PBM system, integrated. Everything's working good. So I'm kind of curious. So for like the next combat mission, do you guys have to do any major modifications to it, or are they? Do you guys plan to release both simultaneously on like Battlefront.com and Steam?
Yes, the all the hard stuff is done.
Oh, wow.
The all the code is integrated into the engine itself, and it just so happened that Cold War was the first one. So what we plan on doing, we're gonna let Christmas go, and we will start re-releasing the remaining combat mission product on Steam and Matrix throughout 2022, and we'll also include patches so that Black Sea and Shock Force 2, which are already available through Slytherin and through Matrix and Steam, those will then be able to use the PVM feature as well.
Wow, okay. That's awesome. I love that you mentioned that. It's basically a free update. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, and that's always been the strategy, is that the something that helps a player play the game should never be charged for. That that should just be integrated into the core system. And because we are working off of one game engine, for the most part, it is no special it it doesn't present any special difficulties to extend something like that to all of the games. The the tricky bit is just doing patches takes a long time because we have so many games and each
Oh
one
yeah.
has to be tested. Each one has its own quirks for on the compiling side. So sometimes we upload the 4 gig file. The testers in 5 seconds say, "Oh, we noticed that this doesn't work." Okay, then we have to go back and do the whole thing. So we try to avoid doing the kind of game engine wide updates. We try to wait until we've got enough to justify it. Otherwise, we could be spending all of our time doing nothing but releasing helter-skelter patches for every small improvement that we make.
Yeah, and this kind of like leads me to another question. I'm so off the rails at this point, but it's okay. Because a buddy of mine was asking, he was like, "All right, what's gonna?" He is a diehard combat mission fanatic, right? He plays. Me and him actually have been playing Combat Mission Africa Core, an oldie but a goodie. Uh, And so he was mentioning, he was like, when will we, will, first he asked, like, will we see these legendary titles, right? Africa Core, Barbarossa Berlin, the first Shock Force, everything migrate over to Steam. Are we going to see that whole catalog move over?
Yeah, well, the whole current catalog for sure. The we have there are some issues with the original three games in terms of hardware compatibility, which is not surprising. Well, it's actually surprising that it took this long to really start to see significant compatibility issues, and there's no going back and correcting the code for them. So I'd have to dust off our conversations with Slytherin from, I don't know, about 2 years ago when we made the decision to hold off doing anything with them. We may revisit that. They are available through GOG, but um, that's always a buyer. Well, it's always a buyer beware thing with them. So we don't know. There are certainly no plans for the first three combat missions uh, to go on to Steam. But and the original Shock Force, there's really no reason for it to go on because Shock Force 2 brought all that material forward and improved the engine at the same time. And the only other one we have that's kind of an orphan is CM Afghanistan, which
Um,
was done on the original game engine that Shock Force was done on. But we don't own the content. That was done through a partnership with a Russian developer that has since gone out of business. And
oh,
I've been in touch with one of the guys, and he promised to get back to me, and he has not. That was earlier this year. The problem he said is that he's not sure who owns the content because the company dissolved.
oh wow.
So, um, yeah, we, so that's kind of a lesson to uh, always keep the stuff in house if you really want to make sure that it lasts long term.
I
But
guess
that
that
was actually that partnership turned out great for everybody. It's just unfortunate that we're in the position we're in now. So
that's what, and this is where the point where the lawyers come in
I
and get
hope,
paid their checks.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. So that's the thing is that probably nothing bad would happen if we started selling it, but or we have the rights to sell it, but we don't have the technical right to modify it. So we're still selling it on our website, but it's the old engine, and we think we're in legally questionable territory if we kind of repackaged it. Um, and like I said, probably nothing negative would come from it, but we just don't feel right about going putting in the time and effort into something that we're a little unsure of.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that.